they do things, and then you come back and say, well, here is what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're saying these are the products you want to do, are you taking continuous feedback, from that same people for whom you're creating the products? Now, if you're Apple, they don't do a lot of that. So, I want to say that an Apple is an exception to some of this. They create new products with the thought process that this is where the demand is going to be, and many times they create new demands, so it's kind of a unique player in that marketplace. But most companies create new things, they really put themselves, or they need to put themselves in, who is it that they want to create those products for, and then really, and it's not easy, because I think when you put it down on paper, saying, for example, what is their job, and what do they do every day, and, who do they interact with, and what are their goals and aspirations, and, what is it that they are going to be delivering for their business, for the next, 2 quarters, and, by the time you do all that, and then you come back and say, well, now create your value statement about what is it that your product is going to do for them, and how far and how effective would it be in making that happen, and how easy is it going to be. And so it's that thought process, where if you can start championing that in your mind and say, what, this is what I'm going to go about doing it, then I think you're onto something great. And then if you have a new idea, anybody has a new idea, you start drilling that idea down all the way through that process. Who is that idea going to be benefiting, right? And as you identify, this is your user of this idea, be it a sales manager or a product manager, then you say, okay, well, now show me how is it going to benefit them, and where is it going to benefit them, and how easy is it going to be for them. And if you can answer those simple questions for me, then the idea will get to the next stage. If you cannot answer those simple questions for me, then let's go back to the drawing board and figure out, is this the right idea to go for? So,
better way.
Better way, exactly. And I think that process many times is missing, and even for the most established companies, of, the idea filtration. How do you really take all the ideas you get, and filter them through, what I call is a machine, sorts, for lack of better words, and it's a process. And then how do you really evaluate that? Some companies, they really do good at it, like, P&G and 3Ms of the world, and some of the new players like Google's and Apple's of the world. Amazon is doing an awesome job there as well. So, but not everybody does that, right? They're not able to come out with breakthrough products, every few years to really start creating new markets.
Maybe because that process gets away from them on them a little bit. Is that a fair characterization?
Exactly, because what happens is you start with your first 1 or 2 products, and you build a company around it, and then everything seems to be evolving around those products that you already built, So it's very easy to be in that way, because, those products are bringing you money. You have clients who are using those products, and those clients are coming back to you and saying, we need more of those, or we need more of somewhat, variation of those. So you really start tinkering with what you already have.
Become myopic.
Which is fine. That's incremental innovation, and that's all great. I think it works for you for a certain time, but, ultimately what happens is, in doing so, you miss out on a new opportunity, which is probably right there in front of you.
Well, that actually makes me think of a final question I wanted to ask you, if you wouldn't mind taking just 2 more minutes to comment on.
Sure.
You've had a unique opportunity to work for very large organizations like IBM and Honeywell, I believe you mentioned, and then very small organizations, and as small as your own startup, which I presume was relatively few people, at least at first. So how does the role of creativity and innovation differ in a large organization versus a small? Are there differences? Am I being too presumptuous there? And if there are, what are there, and what are the challenges that go with those types of issues?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, in a large company, because it becomes of a certain size, you have to, for lack of better words, companies start developing walls of, departments or teams. Your role is in sales versus your role is in marketing versus your role is in products versus your role is in customer service, and etc. And when those walls get created, for lack of better words, everybody is working on their roles. Now, as I said, an innovative organization, I wouldn't say they don't have walls, but at least their culture would be to tell everybody who comes to the company, as to, first thing from your customer's point of view, what is it that you are doing which is going to be impacting your clients, or our clients, and how is it that, you bring forth everything that you learn from that, back to the company. And I think that culture has to be really, I want to say, ingrained, taught, especially as companies get larger, that, listen, we are in the business of helping our clients. So everybody in the company, be it in sales or customer service or product teams or marketing, everybody has to be always thinking through from how you deliver the best, product, the best value. And I think when you're a small startup, on the other hand, the client is everything for you. Everybody is, wearing multiple hats, so you go out of your way to serve your clients because, without the first 5 or 10 or 50 clients, the company is not going to be around next year.
Right.
So it's interesting that when you are that small, how everybody in the company is already focused on and doing everything for your clients, be it taking the laundry out, or I'm just kidding here, but what I'm saying is that you will do everything and anything, possible to ensure the client is happy.
Yeah.
And they're getting what they're looking for when you're that small. But as you get bigger, what happens is since the roles get more defined and they get these walls get created, unfortunately, a lot of companies are not able to come out of those walls, and it becomes like, okay, that's your job versus, no, that's not my job, kind of a thing.
Working against that open borders idea you talked about earlier with a creative culture.
Exactly. So that, I think, has to be taught. It doesn't matter whether you're in the back office trying to create, mundane accounting work or writing checks, all the way up in the front, office where, you're working closely with your, top 5 clients. You got to have that culture where all ideas have to be ingrained. You got to, bring forth, everything that you learn and share that, with the rest of the organization so that, everybody gets rewarded, from all good ideas. And I think that as you get bigger has to be even more pronounced, if you may, because if you don't do it, then you run the risk of not finding something, or a new opportunity that your competitor is already looking at, and they'll go, run with it before you know it. So, I think that's the key. So to have that openness, that transparency, of sharing of ideas, to rewarding of ideas, rewarding of failures, learning from your failures, your institutional memories, and really talking about it, right? Stories about it. And I think that's what, at least I've seen, makes a lot of companies great, in Silicon Valley and beyond.
Okay, well, listen, Sanjay, we've already, I promised to try and keep this to a half an hour, and you've already been more than that generous with your time. So I want to thank you. Here's what I'll do. First of all, if you have any questions for me, I certainly would be happy to try and answer those now. But what I'm going to do is, it's hard for me to send an MP3 file through the email, but what I can do is either put it on a thumb drive for you, or I'm going to have them transcribed, and if you like, I can just send you the transcript, and if there's anything that you're concerned about in that transcript, you can certainly strike it out. And I'm also happy, if you would like, to send you the final product of what the research is for your review if you're curious to see it. It's not the most riveting reading in the world, but given your kind of...
No, I would love to. I would love to see it. I'd love to see where is it that,
Yeah. I've had some really interesting interviews with some people at some really big organizations and some really innovative organizations, and they're very interesting. If it's any consolation to you, Go ahead.
What has been your analysis, or what have you been observing so far, if I may?
Well, I'm trying to be as non-judgmental about it as I can, but one of the things that's very interesting that keeps coming up is the notion of being open-minded and about the notion